presentation is called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, One Teacher's Adventure with Inquiry. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Kirsten Odian, and I teach grade 1 to at Trump Creek Elementary School, and I'm also a helping teacher in the district. So you would actually think I knew what I was doing when it came to inquiry and teaching with the new curriculum. And I'm no stranger to inquiry. I did a great inquiry project with my grade 1 class last year about communities. So this year I went into my school year with guns a-blazing and I was ready to get going. And that was kind of my teaching style as well. So we decided to take a vote as a class. We wanted to learn about bats. And I thought, well, that's cool, bats are interesting. So we started off by co-creating a KWL chart, what we wanted to know, what we wondered, and what we learned about bats. And then I used those questions to guide our inquiry. And I thought about, habitat and appearance and life cycle and so on, and I chose 7 questions and divided my kids into those 7 groups with those questions. And then I hit my first bump in the road. So where do I get started? My kids aren't used to research, and nor are they really proficient readers yet. So I had a solution. I knocked on the grade 5 teacher's door and stole some of her students, and they came into the lab and helped us get started. The downside was that the grade 5s worked really hard, but we didn't. So then the clipboards sat in a yellow bin, and that was my bump in the road. And they mocked me. Week after week, I ignored those yellow bins with my inquiry clipboards and thought about hitting the saloon. And it's funny how I really became proficient at pretending those clipboards didn't exist. And time passed and I waited for someone or something to come and rescue me, and I was kind of looking for my Midwestern version of a knight in shining armor. And I kind of let my project move down my list of to-do things, and I filled my day book with other projects and other things. And then I agreed to share at this Ignite session and knew that I was going to present on inquiry. So I kind of went back to the drawing board, and it was a kick in the pants that I needed. And I started thinking about the tools that I could use that would help me move forward with the inquiry. And I thought back to a workshop I went to on project-based learning and inquiry and looked at some of the resources that were shared there. And one of the things that I found was a poster that was created by the BCTF. And I kind of started to realize that I was farther along the inquiry process than I had actually thought. And that I could actually see that light at the end of the tunnel, and that pretty much saved my sanity. And I knew where to go next. So I started looking at that as a class and looking at the different stages and realized, okay, we've already done our connect and wonder. We've activated our thinking, we asked some questions, and our class generated some things they already knew about bats, and then asked some deep thinking questions that they wanted to answer. And some of their questions were really great, like how high can they fly, and why do they get stuck in our hair? And then we did the investigation stage, so we read some books, we watched some videos, we did some experiments, we discussed some facts that we knew, we heard some stories about bats, and then we learned from an expert. We had the Going Batty presentation, and we had an expert come and talk to us about echolocation and how bats find their little babies, their pups. So then we went on to the construct. We'd already done that. We worked with others to gather and record our information so I could check that off our list. And I had given the grade 5 a list of websites that they could use, and they did a great job of weeding through that information to find the nuggets that pertain to the inquiry question that the kids were investigating. So now I had my solution to my second bump in the road. I knew what our next step was, and it was to find a format to communicate what we had discovered with our questions. And I knew the path that I had to follow, and so that was reassuring to me, and I was ready to kind of dive back into the looming yellow bins once more. So my next step was to gather my class, so I did this on Monday, and we actually talked about what we'd already done, and we celebrated how much we had learned on our topic. And then we discussed our next step, which was telling others in our school and in our classroom about what we had learned about bats. So we have now an audience, and we had a purpose to what we had been doing so far. We brainstormed different ways to share our finding and considered different presentation formats. We decided, because it was our first go at it, we would have a similar format, the same format for all of our presentations, and the class decided that they wanted to come up with posters, knowing that down the road we would maybe pick a different presentation format. So yesterday, on Monday we spent some time reading our Big Buddies notes and filling in the gaps with more information, with things that we had learned from our books and from the videos that we had read, and just making sure that we had the answers to our deep thinking questions there. And then from that, we built in time for students to work on that express stage and their posters. So for me, I had to release some of the control and let the students find a way to work with them, their groups, to decide who was doing what. And if they came and asked me a question like, can I use felts? My response, my stock answer was, this is your poster. And for those that don't know me, that was a big thing. So we did some focusing on co-creating criteria, and then I did notice as we worked that I had some bossy britches and some slackers. So my next step is to work on how to build some group etiquette so that they know what to do. And then my final stage of the project is going to be to have the students self-assess how they did in their inquiry group, and also reflect on the unit as a whole so that I know what to do when we start our next inquiry unit, which is again now kind of looming in the background for me. That will start probably in January. So to wrap things up, I think that I'm still in the shallow end of the pool in regards to inquiry based on the age of my students and my comfort level as a teacher. And I know that some of us might be afraid to kind of jump in the water and get going, but I hope by sharing the good, the bad, and the downright ugly, and how it's unfolded in my classroom this year, that you might be willing to at least dip a toe in. So my final thought for today was that I'm creating this culture of curiosity and wonder in my classroom, and the students are beginning to see themselves as experts, and I'm having to become more comfortable with the messiness of inquiry. They're okay with it. I'm in the beginning stages of that part. All right, thank you.